Isn't she pretty? Still is. Well, good morning. As Darren said, I've been asked to share a few memories of what happened in the decade of the 90s here at Redeemer Church. I had the privilege, as Darren said, of being our first youth and, he forgot this part, family pastor, hired in 1988, again with my lovely wife, Roberta. And without a doubt, as I think back to the 90s, the greatest single event of the 90s was the building of this building. The first service took place in this room on a cement floor because the carpet hadn't been laid yet. And that was Monday night, December 31st, 1990, all the way through Tuesday morning, January 1st, 1991. And of course, our first Sunday like this was the following Sunday, January 6th. But before we ever broke ground to begin building this building, we had that cross that's out in the northeast part of our building. That was the first part of the building. It had always been the dream of our founding pastor, Chris Blackmore, to have a giant cross that could be seen from the campus in such a way, and maybe you don't know this, that at nighttime, when the lights are shining on it just right, it looked like there was somebody on the cross. Then again, when you come back in the daylight in the morning or whatever time, that somebody would be strangely absent. It was our hope that that alone would be a discussion starter, that we can continue to talk about that man and what he did on the cross. Answering the call to that dream that Pastor Blackmore had was a man by the name of Dave Calloway. Before his work on the cross, he actually built a small model of that cross to see if it would work. Carved it just like this one is carved today, only before this one was made. Put flashlights kind of up toward the what would be like armpits, if you would, and to see if it would work. And you can actually see that replica. It's in the Blackmore Sunday School room on the wall. If you haven't seen it, go take a peek at it. It's part of the history of this building. So it worked, and then we ordered the big pieces of lumber. Dave went to work on that thing. Eventually, it was installed, and it sat alone on the 5 acres of property, empty property, and this big giant cross that was on this northeast end. And it was the talk of the congregation. It was the talk of the town. It made the newspapers. It hit the radio shows. And, of course, we liked some of that attention, but it also brought the attention of cross haters. What? Do they exist? Yes, they do. Sometime after Christmas in the early 90s, somebody stacked a pile of old dead Christmas trees at the foot of the cross and lit it. Like, you know, they want to see a monster-sized burning cross, I guess. But as God would have it, the fire never really took hold, and it only blackened the base of the cross. Sometime later, someone else tried to burn the cross down. Again, unsuccessful. But those two incidents brought about a decision to put up 8 feet of sheetrock, sheet metal at the base of that cross to kind of help protect it. And since that time, as far as we know, nobody's tried to burn the cross down. Hey, that's a good thing, right? And it has continued to symbolize the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ to our community, the purpose of why this building was to be built in the first place, and of course the mission of what we are all about as well. Our new building was an exciting event for the new church at this time, and so because many people prayed and many people gave and many labored to help make this a reality, believe it or not, we got in this building for under $32 a square foot. Crazy, a minor miracle even back then when buildings were going $70 and $80 a square foot. And that happened because so many people dedicated their time and their labor, and of course their money, to help get this thing done. There are stories and stories of individuals doing specific work here, and it'd be great to bring their names up and tell you what they all did. But those memories are fading, but if you talk to them, they'd say it doesn't matter, because it wasn't about me. It's about bringing glory to God as God would use this building. So I say, oh Lord, thank you. Thank you for those men and women who sacrificed more than 30 years ago for the benefit of so many then, as well as so many today. Prior to this building, virtually all Sunday morning ministry took place in the homes of people. In fact, at one time, Pastor Blackmore had 10 Bible studies that he taught during the week. Crazy. But with the advent of the building, everything was changing. Most all the ministries taking place now in the building. And very quickly, we learned we didn't have a clue how to take care of our building. Everything was done on a shoestring budget or with volunteers. At one point, we hired 2 of our high school students to be the ones to clean the building after Sunday. That sounds like a good idea, right? Okay. And it was going so well until the police showed up. Apparently, people were walking by or driving there, and they began complaining because the servant-minded youth were also having a great time shooting the gophers with their .22s out the windows of the church. Now, as the youth pastor, I had no problem with this. We were, at that time, outside of the city limits. It's all legal. But those stinking elders, oh, did I say that? Those elders, they didn't think the same way. Anyway, so many other great things to share. The first missions trip to Jamaica, led by Jem and Melinda Erickson. Great people, great missions trip. The beginning of our annual spring break missions started by Dave and Jenny Lockey. 8 people, 7 I think, stuffed into their little station wagon off to LA, came back, told stories. The next year there was 35 going to Denver. And then 2 years later we had 85 in Seattle. And that happened for years and years at a time. There were communion Sunday potlucks right here in this room where the E-Free Church got its nickname, Eat Free Church. There was the hiring of additional staff, scores of baptisms, weddings, and even funerals, and so much more. But the greatest hallmark of the church of the 90s was that the ministry of the church was largely owned and led by the people of the church. And so I close by encouraging you today, the church of the 2020s, to continue to carry the baton of the gospel of Jesus Christ to this community, this nation, and on to the ends of the earth, all for his glory. Thank you.